Well, I'm Dotan. I'm with Porat Group, blockchain consultancy. We consult on blockchain projects. Me, basically, I'm a lawyer, unfortunately. I come from securities and banking, and that's my background. I also worked for a banker for a while. That's what actually brought me into the space. A few quick notes before I kick off. There was a mistake in the agenda with the title of what I'm going to talk about, but I thought to leave it that way because it's a great example about what doesn't happen on blockchain, right? That would never happen on blockchain. Second is, I'm going to stick to my notes because if I don't, I'll just keep going on forever and ever, just like something resembles what happened here just before. Just a thought I had before I came on stage. When everything happens on a metaverse, will our avatars have dreams about standing naked in front of a crowd? I don't know, just thinking out loud. No one laughed. That's kind of disappointing. Just want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Matan Kelly from our team, helped me out with this, so there's just another person to blame. All right, what do I do? Press this. Okay, great colors. Natural combination, when you get a lawyer and tokens, is right, the analysis is a token of security, right? Well, we're not going to do that, not this time at least. When we focus on that analysis, on the securities issue, we forget about something much more important, and that's token versus shares. Now, shares are the most basic form of a security, but they're built for a specific purpose and for a good reason. They're actually there to do the heavy lifting for a company. They represent ownership, they give you voting rights, right? And a chunk of the profits when time comes. Their most basic asset, and I use the word asset, a company can sell to get money, and that money is the company's collateral. It's just not a typical income. They get their life, shares I'm talking about, they get their life from company laws, all right? They're part of a system that's much larger than the company itself. And a system that involves regulators, judicial system, the courts, right? And basically, it's part of a system, the financial system itself. Shares are part of that system. They evolved together with the system, and they play it a part. Tokens are different. They're a novelty, all right? They're born out of a code on a decentralized platform. Their purpose can be anything. And that anything can be determined by the community of token holders, not necessarily even in the control of the project itself. They're part of a brand new type of an ecosystem, as we spoke about, and the financial thinking behind tokens is entirely different. The problem is that we use the same framework built for shares and try to apply that with tokens. We do that with documentation. That's a good example, right? We would take SPA, a share purchase agreement, and transform it to a token purchase agreement. We'll take a SAFE, and we'll transform that into a SAFT. But it's not the same thing, so things get lost in translation. And the copy-paste just doesn't work well enough because we lose the fundamentals behind why a token is special and what differentiates it from the regular system. Please change. There it goes. All right. Okay, shares are governed by laws. The system we developed is based on certificate and registries. To achieve validity, we actually use public registries, okay? We submit stuff to the government and everybody can look them, and that's your hashing there. For a company, the main component that bring life into the company and its shares is the Articles of Association. And that also contains all the specifications for the shares. Tokens, on the other hand, are born on a smart contract. We talked about that, on a blockchain. They don't have a regulator, mom and dad. They just simply don't. They could be anything, right? We spoke about that as well. And not all, but an important thing we should always remember is, though they are on the blockchain and everybody can get them, Not all token holders are created equally, because you have the project itself, right, with the founders, workers, the advisors. Then you have investors that they come in with the pre-sale, and they actually get one thing that other tokens don't, token holders don't. They know each other, so they know the identity of other holders, and that doesn't happen in the community, not naturally anyway. And another thing they do is they get some influence on the project, right? They have more information, so the playing field isn't balanced there. So when we use the template designed for the world of shares and we try to apply them for tokens, it kind of misses out the point again, all right? And it doesn't take in consideration the uniqueness. On a more fundamental level, shares are the way a company gets funding at a particular stage. At the beginning, it raises money so it can build a business, right? It didn't move? It moved, all right? It builds its business, and later on, it can sell shares to get more money to keep developing the business. But the purpose of that is to create revenue, a revenue from selling a product or services, all right? Tokens provide oxygen in a completely different way. In the usual model, all right, the token is the basis for the company's revenue or the project. The revenue, it's not selling it as equity. It is the revenue model for the company. They are sold to get money, to get things kicked off, and then you keep some aside, right, hoping that the price will go up so you can create more revenue when the road, you're down the road. But that not necessarily includes having a product or services, but you're more or less dependent on having a demand for the token. So if we wanted to be blunt, I would say that the token is actually like a chain on a project's leg because it's enslaved to keep producing the demand in the market. And we see some solutions come out with staking, but that takes the focus out of actual product or services. That is very different, as I said, from the original model of a share-based thinking. And that's just one more thing we need to think about in a new way when we design the project, because it's an actual revolution compared to how things work now. Finally, a company never starts out as a public one. That's just legally and practically impossible for a company. It starts private, it is limited by the amount of people it can offer shares to, and it's limited to the kind of people they can offer the shares. They have to be professional investors. These guys look into the specifics of the business, they look into the financial, they check out the assets, right? And they negotiate the terms in which they make their investment. The valuation is backed, at least in theory, right, by rules and sometimes even by laws. And after a time, when the company matures enough, only then, it can go public. At that stage, when it goes public, the playing field is leveled. All the shareholders share the same information. They can only interact on the same platforms, the same exchanges, all right, on the same rules and the same terms. And they get, as I said, the same level of rights and clarity about what they're involved in. The price of the shares is something that has well-established rules about how we determine it in the market, and everybody out there know what rights they get and what their liabilities are when they hold the shares. That's a thing to keep in mind. You hold something, you get the right, but there's also liabilities there. Also, with a token project, well, it's totally different, as I keep saying, and the project turns public essentially at birth. The tokens are already sold, right, to the public at the beginning. So, and then you have the token traded on multiple platforms, which could be entirely different one from another. So there's no single set of rules that governs what's going on. And there, again, two types of holders out there. There's the guys that got the token from the initial pre-sale or private sales, and then we have all the rest of us that just bought it somewhere on Uniswap or Binance, and we're not exactly the same. And these are major factors we need to keep in mind when constructing the legal and a contractual framework for a project. The implications are important, first of all, for the company itself, and we touched on this, but second of all, to the investors. And we see things unfolding now. We see investors that even bought tokens in projects, and they're feeling the heat. Bottom line is, when you move from the traditional share startup model to the novelty of a token-based startup model, you just can't do the same thing. It's not the same game, and you have to rethink the whole structure, the whole strategy, and naturally also the legal documentation, because you just can't copy-paste. It's not good enough. You should make sure the people that advise you on that understand the fundamental differences between the two worlds. Now, you don't need to be a real hero to criticize NFTs these days, so cowardly enough, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Basically, the slide speaks for itself. I'm only say this: there's no chance in the world anyone here in the audience, in his straight mind, would go into a transaction with an asset with a very high price tag without checking what he's buying. You would do due diligence, right? You would get assurances, you would get some reps and warranties about what you were buying. But when we go into the NFT world or the market as it played out until now, that's simply not around. You know, who holds the file? That's nothing we look into. For how long and where? Again, most projects don't even target that as a question. And more importantly, illegally speaking, is you don't even know if the person that created a picture or drew the ape, if he actually gave his right, the ownership, so we can keep trading that on. Those are basic questions you usually ask in a transaction, and they're simply not around in the NFT market to date. And that is a tragedy, because blockchain is a platform to solve exactly those problems. If we use blockchain technology and the potential behind it, all those questions get an answer, and a freaking good one. But we focus on the NFT being tradable, we focus on the marketing, we focus on and that's why I think we're experiencing what we're experiencing now. The pendulum is moving, the system is looking for a balance. But you can't just throw out the window all the old school stuff we should learn from. All right. To wrap things up very quickly, we overlook some bare essentials when we dream about safe harbor that the DeFi and DAOs can give us. But in the end of the day, a smart contract needs an owner, a project needs an operator, and they both need an interface. These are points of contact or friction that we should account for and consider. I think we need to understand that decentralization isn't binary. It's not that you either are decentralized or not, but it's kind of on a range that you can, certainly on a range as well, but it's a range that you can measure a project's decentralization level, and we should keep that in mind in a new set of thinking. If I would be, not enough time, but I would ask everybody to speak here at once, that would be impractical to hear anyone, right? That just wouldn't work. So think about DeFi the same way, or DAOs the same way. We can't just all speak at once. We need structure, and we can't just toss that notion out the window. Feel safe to say that we're experiencing now in the markets, not only in crypto, but all around, is the attempt of the system to rebalance itself in a way. And I believe we should use more scrutiny, actually, in this conference and meeting the people around, starting to feel that things are maturing. So that's reassuring, and I believe that with the right approach, we can achieve sustainability in the system and build on and on. Thank you for listening. We're Porat Group. Look us up, and stay around to hear Yogev Toby speak a little later after me. Thanks.